So we are live.
Cool. May and may not have just run upstairs to the shit.
Let's put on a nice good old tie. Yeah, so we're doing a live podcast this time.
Awesome.
Oh, let's mute that so I don't get. There we go.
You get double audio.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah, so we've got good old Barry this time. Tom will be coming back once he's got his other computer because his computer struggles with the principles of the internet. And then we have a Ben here as well, who is
Hello.
hiding a little bit with a green box at the bottom. But that's fine.
Absolutely. I'm on my PC, so no camera, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. It's probably best for everyone.
Nah, everyone likes a camera. It's fine.
Everyone does.
So plans we got for this one. We've got a bunch of questions to go through. Tom's got double audio. This is always good.
Podcast questions.
And then we have as well, we're going to look over the troll stuff as well, and just some random shit, really.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we'll start with the troll stuff because Ben has to go to a round, do his round a little bit. So, shall we start off on the minion side of things?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Before you got to go. So in terms of buffs for minions, which seems like a weird thing to say, what are your favourite changes for the CID that's come out for trolls?
I'm going to start with a pretty spicy take. I don't think champions are very good in minions.
Didn't even
And
say
that's-
slag troll. Oh, disappointing.
Even with Azazel.
Even with Azazel, minions have incredibly good brick lists in Will Work for Food. Using the Archons, using the good solos that we've got, minions can build a great brick. What minions have struggled with for a long time is a list that can really reach out hard and touch things. Decent gun lines, something with long melee ranges if you don't want to play Arcadius. And so for me, they're the parts of Vengeance of Dunia that I'm really enjoying and really leaning on. Things like just having access to the troll axe, the troll shooting lights, which are incredibly good now. Well, one of them is incredibly good. Two of them, in fact, are incredibly good. If you want to count the slag troll as a shooting light, and they're the things that I've been sort of taking into the minion side of things. So the main Vengeance of Dunia list that I'm playing at the moment, I indeed played on the stream earlier badly, is a Helga 2 list in Vengeance of Dunia using 3 Pyre trolls, an Axa, a Storm troll because Signar and Circle exist, and then just the standard minion support stuff. And for me, that is the area where minions really gain from the Vengeance of Dunia theme, as opposed to I'm not discounting double champion bricks, single champion bricks. I think those lists are good. I think minions' best lists are a Helga 1, a Maylock, an Azazello in Will Work for Food, and I don't think champions' bricks pair particularly well with that. So, because
That's kind of fair. I can see where you're coming from in regards to the Archons are just very strong.
they are.
Sadly, so I feel like you've still got the option of all of the other good stuff that's hit. Like Pyre and Slags are phenomenal now in terms of utility.
So good.
Yeah.
And
They
you've
were
got some
probably,
good.
I think Fire Troll is the best change from the whole CID.
The Pyre Troll was a perfectly good 8-point war beast that needed the buff of being able to put fire hands on other models, and that's a great change. The fact that they just out of nowhere gave it rate of fire 2 as well is beautiful.
It
does,
spits,
but
it
the
spits the
old
fire.
Holding Kugel with fire.
Yeah, but the old model has the fire coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, well, that's a
Oh,
bad
so
model.
you think it should be rated Fire 3? I agree.
Yeah, I think I do, and so that's why I've really been enjoying playing them with Helga 2, because all of a sudden with Speed 7 and Repo 3, they can play quite a nice skirmishing game, either taking little chips out of heavy targets or just chucking AoEs around and seeing what infantry sets on fire. And I think they are really great in that kind of role now.
That's fair. How do you feel about the fact that you've gained about 12 casters? That's probably not the correct number there. No idea what it is, but...
I think it's 15 or 16, depending on whether you cast Borka 1 as a caster or not.
Yeah, it's debatable.
He's not even a good junior.
So I think it's great. I do personally. I've not particularly been looking at them at the moment. I've been playing a bit of Grim 2 for fun more than anything else.
Yeah, it seems like a fun gun line, Grim 2. But I think there's some interesting ones in Trolls, but I'm not sure you...
Gun Beyond 2 is good. The most interesting one, and the better Minions player than me, Mr. Brad Park, is a huge fan of this one, is Ragnar in Vengeance of Dunya. It's not a list I've looked at yet, but his changes have made him very interesting, and he uses the Vengeance of Dunya theme very well. And then there's some fairly obvious ones like Gun Beyond 1 and Gun Beyond 2. If they want to make a gun line, that gun line will be good in Vengeance of Dunya. For me, it's not how I particularly enjoy playing the game with a list like that, so I've not particularly looked at those. I played a bit of Gristle too as well, because she just looks like she'd be good, but she never is.
That's not wrong. It's not right. She's good. She's good in Storm in the North, but that's not a Minions theme.
Potentially,
yeah.
And then there's some other sort of control-y casters that I'll probably have a look at some point. And it feels like a caster like Colgrimmer doesn't want to be in Vengeance of Dunya.
No, I agree.
But maybe will still be good enough in there to offer something interesting to a Minions pair.
Maybe. I don't really see that, to be honest. I don't feel like it offers anything to Minions for her.
No, I don't particularly, but
you might be able to get something...
I really like Colgrimmer, so I wish it did.
Yeah, you could probably get something interesting out of DB3. Like if... I was speaking to Barry about this. If the Death Archon takes over as much as people think it will, you are going to start seeing a lot less of these voids, which means that you're actually going to be able to afford to your feet, effectively, and actually start to be healing things. And that might be good enough to make DB come back.
Yeah, potentially, definitely. The other list that I think is worth mention, even though almost just saying the words associated with it bores me to tears, is Carver in Vengeance of Dunya.
Oh.
It's just fast high armor numbers.
It's just so bland.
It's so boring.
It's like thinking about Madrak 1 in VOD. That can't be a fun list.
I can't bring myself to play it. You just like Madrak, double Dooney and Archon, double champs. Good model, go good. Yeah.
A champion hero, boom Howler 3, and go.
Like,
yeah, it just doesn't seem worth at all.
It just seems so dull.
Yeah. And certainly, as I said before, from certainly on the Madrak 1 front, from a Minions point of view, it doesn't help what we need, because that slow brick list is just suited better by what we've already got.
Yeah, I think the theme helped Trolls more than it helped Minions.
Yes, yeah, for sure. No,
even then, I think it's just given Trolls... all it's effectively given Trolls, I feel like, is the potential of taking Valks, which you could already do. I think the main thing is you're getting a theme where you can take General Thunderstone Brug to affect stuff, which is such a big buff for such a tiny little model. And then you've also got the benefit of Gudrun too. Like, I think that's the main things, really.
Oh, Gudrun 2 with champs as well. Ugh.
Like, that's the main things I'd be looking at with VOD.
You sound like you felt a bit sick there.
Yeah, no, I did. Just like, it's just the concept of that list with like Madrak and then champs, Gudrun, double Dooney and Archon. So the ones you do eventually hit.
Double Valks to take the shield guards you really don't want.
Yeah.
But the problem with that list is it threatens 10 inches.
Yep.
So you want a fun list then? Here's one for you. You can play a better Arcadius, debatable, Do Me 2 in VOD. You get all the threat range. You get the good old will work for food theme benefit of playing Do Me 2 with your overtake.
Yep.
Can't go wrong. Physically can't go
Can't
wrong.
go well.
You can take a
Cool.
Seeking as well. That's always a good time. Getting to throw that mid and
So
Mars.
if you want an actually fun list as opposed to
Wow.
that list, you can play full Mad Max. Where's the list I wrote for full on? Just if Mad Max is your thing, this is the list. You can take Helga 2 with 2 Roadhogs, and you can take 2 Meat Threshers, 2 War Wagons, Leadfoot and Treads, 2 Pig Tanks, and then like a Stone. And just
Beautiful.
have
And the
a
best
load of
thing is-
stupid vehicles, run up the table, and not achieve very much. But it'll be
The
fun.
best thing- no, Ben. The best thing is that list is immune to Death Archons.
Is it though?
It is pretty immune to Death Archons.
It ignores Mortal Fear. Like they're not living.
It does, but it gets really screwed over by stationary.
There's a lot of it you can't station. You can't stationary battle engines. I think. No one's
What?
corrected me on that statement
Look
yet.
that up now. I don't know anymore.
Actually,
Forgotten.
The ultimate immune to Death Archons list at the moment in minions certainly is Maylock.
I think
If-
you can, because the only reason I
Oh,
say
no,
this is
can I be-
if you
Can it be knocked down, pushed, or made stationary? We're all good.
Okay,
There
there
we
we
go.
go.
Of course so.
You can knock him down though, Barry. You can knock him down.
No, I said cannot be knocked down.
Oh,
That's the first thing I said, right? Cannot
But
be
you
pushed,
can.
knocked down, or made stationary.
You can be shadowbound.
Yes.
You can be shadowbound. Absolutely. They've not got unstoppable force. Bullshit rule du jour.
Uh,
No, I think Maylock. I'm probably gonna. I played Maylock for a long time, and I'm probably gonna go back to playing Maylock again because if all that Death Pact did was make everything undead, it would still be one of the most meta relevant spells right now. The fact that it gives a cheeky bit of armor as well is just an added bonus.
it's just so bland. Don't get me wrong, it's better than the Posse build. I actually think that Posse build is debatably one of the most boring lists you could ever play in War Machine.
I think it might be the most boring list in War Machine.
Because it doesn't really do any damage. You just
No.
exist to stand there with a bunch of chunky boys that just
And
recur.
hope you can score 1 point more than your opponent at the bottom
Yeah.
of 7.
Yeah, that's all it is. And like poor people like Delano just being able to play that drunk out of his mind because it doesn't require any form of skill at all to play.
Always a delight to watch. to
How
be
many
fair.
how many minutes did we get into this podcast without slagging off Delano?
this is the first time we've
maybe?
done it in all of the podcasts.
It's fine. He
This
doesn't
is
exist anymore, so it's all good. It's all fine. Poor guy's just fallen off. Bless him.
But yeah, no, we'll work for food Maylock. It's not fun because of Maylock. It's fun because of all the stuff you have with Maylock.
Yeah, it's all the Archons and stuff. But the same thing. Like the Helga one was really interesting.
Yeah,
We'll work for food. We'll see if people.
Azazel will work for food is very good and very fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd say it's fun. He's a very
It's fun for the minions player.
yeah. That's because you're playing Iona, but better though. That's why.
Oh, I actually played that matchup a little while ago, and it felt very odd in that both of our feats were the same,
Yeah,
apart from Azazel's is better.
yeah. Apart from your casters are just better now. But yeah, apart from that,
And it's great because you just get to the way you win that matchup as the Azazel player is you just turn 1, you cast Phantasm or something on something, and you go, Iona player, are you going to cast Phantasm? Or oh,
big sad.
yeah, and then they get sad.
So overall, you're pretty happy with the good additions
I think
that
it's
you've
great.
got from it.
I think it's a really good theme. I think it's got some. I think it's got some very player-friendly, strong lists that will be great for players who want to make a step up to competitive play.
Yeah, that's fair.
Someone like that taking an Azazello double champs list will do really well. They'll be able to get competitive with that list, but I think it will reach a point at which the strength of it dwindles out. As
Yeah, I feel like a good thing that it is providing, because obviously Minions doesn't have a huge amount of options right now. So if you effectively, as a Minions player, buy a stone and some champions,
Yep.
potentially Scaldy, right? The rest of the stuff you should basically own anyway. The diversity that gives you, along with just the other casters that you can take, it should just give you enough juice to keep going for quite a while before you get more broken right clicks.
Absolutely, because we were a one theme faction.
Yeah.
Up until that release, in effect.
Well, Pharaoh's great. How can you say that?
What's the name of the theme with the Pharaoh in, Ryan? It's Thornfall Alliance, Ryan.
There you go. Not heard that in a while.
If you want a wild theory, before I think we have to go and join the steamroller again in a minute or two. I had a mad idea earlier on today that in order to juice up Thornfall and Blindwater a little bit, put a rule in there that lets you take Brine and Snapjaw and Scarith as beasts on the Warcasters, just as any other character beast in a theme. I think that'd be a really nice way to add something to those themes. It wouldn't be particularly strong necessarily, because most of the good rules in those packages are on the junior Warcasters. I think it'd just give a few nice little options.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
Something to think about. But yeah, I suppose you are probably best to get on with your steamroller by the looks of things.
I probably should. I've not seen who I've got next round, but I'm sure I will find out
Yeah.
in a moment.
It is already in there in the admin chat. You are playing against Isaac Kim. You can let them know as well, by the way. They're able to start. They don't have to wait or anything.
I will find them. Thank you very much indeed for having me on, and I'll catch up with the rest of it. What have we got a timestamp so that I know when to start listening to not have to hear myself?
Let me have a look.
It is. I can never remember how to get timestamps.
17 minutes.
17 minutes. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll catch you guys later.
Speak to you in a bit. Bye.
Timing, Ryan, because I've just opened my milk stout just for you.
Oh, fantastic. Should we move Jack and see if he's live now? But he's not.
So,
Hi, Jack.
is Jack there? Who knows? No. Oh, well.
He might turn
Yeah,
up.
bye, Jack. I'll put him in the shadow realm. There we go.
Yeah, so it's nice to know that Minions didn't feel like VOD did a huge amount. Like, it's nice to just give them a second theme option again.
That's fair.
Stuff like the troll models don't do as much for Minions as the Minion models do for troll players.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Pretty cool.
and on the plus side, apart from gaining a theme, loads of models got buffed. So, how do you feel in terms of, from the troll side, Barry, as the local troll player down by us? So, what's your top fave thing that's happened?
The Pyre Troll, like Ben said, that like just big benefits all around. Like
Pure value in it.
Almost like overtuned for sure.
I'm not sorry to say it's overtuned.
Yeah.
If the gun was any more powerful, I'd potentially think about it.
Yeah, if it was like PAL 13.
And if you had better ranged buffs, I could see it being overtuned.
What are you on about, mate? Horgle 2 and a Pyre Troll now.
I generally think if Horgle 1 was in a decent theme, that had taken him with a Pyre Troll for Hotshot would be really good.
He's in Band of Heroes now.
Which is not a great theme, bar like one caster, sadly.
That's true. That's one of my negatives for Vengeance Adunia is that it did kind of take Band of Heroes for a lot of casters and just go, it's just better here.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Trolls have gone from having no fantastic themes prior to the CID to Storm really standing out and Vengeance really standing out. Cruel Company, it seems a bit sad still.
Bumbles and Big Axe Bloke, Boomy 3.
Boomy 3's huge, yeah.
Been like big changes for Trolls. And it's weird because you think having Boomy 3 in Band of Heroes would be like really good for everyone, but it just feels better in VOD because you can take General Thunderstone Brug and have speed buffs
Yeah,
everywhere.
that +1 move, just applying to so many different things, is such a huge benefit. Like when you're
Coupled
looking
with
at,
the Doomie and Archon,
When you're-
and,
it's not even that I think of. Like when
and the
you,
knot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
when I look at the main issues with the troll bricks are the speed, right? So when you've got the champions which were base speed 5, 1-inch melee, right? Brug puts them
Threatening
up to Brug puts them up to 10. If you want to be bold, you can take Coldstone. So you can still take that in VOD, right?
yeah, with Scaldy, yeah.
Yep, so you can get in at 11. I don't feel like most of the time the no continuous is hugely relevant nowadays.
It comes up every now and then, but only
It comes
like
up every
as
now and
randomly.
then, but I generally feel like most of the time I'd happily take the Coldstone so my champions for 11. They then
Yeah.
actually feel like they're going to achieve something.
Yeah, I think so. On that note, I feel like Scaldy went down in like value massively.
I can see the value of him in a very tanky list, just because of
5
the
points, 10
just
extra boxes.
just because the extra
That's great,
boxes.
8 extra boxes.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, why not just take 2 sorcerers for 6 points and have 10 boxes rather than 8?
He still gives minor benefits, right?
Oh yeah, practice maneuvers.
He's actually a
And
good rule.
overtake.
It's not bad when you've got 2 attacks, 1-inch melee.
True.
Practice maneuvers
And
actually comes up. Yeah,
Makes them normal as well. I don't know. I still feel like he got less valuable.
yeah,
It became a point where instead of like you would consider Scaldy and a champ hero now,
yeah.
like as options rather than just going Scaldy every time. I mean, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It just feels like I feel like you take him sometimes, right, but not all the times.
Yeah. I feel like the other winners were like the Pyre Troll, the Slag Troll, the Impaler. I think were my biggest 3 like winners from the whole CID. They were all really good.
Yeah,
And then Mold got cheaper. Whelps got slightly more expensive, but single point options, which is always better. Stone Change was big. Like cheap stone is good. And then Madrak and Ragnar both got really, really good. Madrak did overshadow. I still think Madrak overshadows. Madrak 3 overshadows Madrak 2 still. Like big time.
Madrak 2's unfortunately got no reason to exist anymore. I think.
Yeah, he kind of just got like
Madrak
shunted
3
out.
is so much better.
Take
Um,
Madrak instead.
yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And then in my list of meh is the change to Doomy 1. Woo.
yeah.
And then all the other lights, the Swamp Troll, the Storm Troll, the Night Troll. The
Yeah.
Brawler as well. Like, Beatback has made it slightly more relevant. Well, it's only more relevant because you've got Hot Hands and Spicy Hands now,
Yeah.
rather than having to put Rage on it, so you don't have to take the Mauler anymore. And that makes the Brawler slightly better, but
Yeah.
even then it's still kind of meh.
I don't hate the brawler. Like always having
I
the
like
option
it
for
as a
reach
war
heavy is
beast.
nice.
It's like it's one of those things where if you want a beater, you either take the Brawler or the Mauler. Often the Mauler's better. I don't know.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think it's caster dependent a little
I
bit.
think that the Brawler didn't really get better. It just got better by the virtue of the Pyre Troll and the Slag Troll being
Yeah.
good.
Right, I don't need to stress anymore. They've started to
And then
stay.
there's Troll Warders, which I haven't seen on a table since.
You've played them once during the CID.
I did play them once during the CID, but since the CID dropped, I think everyone's just gone to VOD and playing Valks instead because
Yeah, I mean, we kind of briefly touched on this. I don't think Band of Heroes is good enough. I see Band of Heroes getting played with Magic 3. That's about it.
yeah,
Just because
can't see
Fen,
very many others like maybe
if,
Gristle 1. Even
if
then,
Fen Blades were in
obviously.
another theme, I don't even think you'd see Band of Heroes anymore.
Yeah,
Like Fen Blades with Battlelust.
Yeah.
Yeah, is those right? Right, name of the spell. Yeah, with that, they are such a good piece, and you can get such good mat as well. But
yeah.
you get a lot of value out of them. But I don't see reason for that theme anymore. Sadly.
No, it kind of has lost its identity.
Yeah,
No, it's now-
it's a theme where I hate to say it. If you was to drop the Doonies in it, I generally think you'd see that theme a lot more. Again.
Yeah, if you double Dooney it in Band of Heroes, for sure you'd see it lots more.
I mean, that's kind of the problem with quite a lot of out of place themes I can think of. Like, as a Men-Off player, if you was to put the Menite in the two bad themes, right?
They'd be playable.
They'd be playable. I wouldn't say they're good, but they'd be playable, right?
Yeah.
Because, heaven forbid, giving the fire model the ability to go in the theme with
The fire model.
the fire models, yeah. Heaven forbid that. That'd be outrageous.
I'm laughing at the implications for Skull because they changed nothing.
But, like,
Yeah.
it's just a case of it's what should be a minor thing, but unfortunately they are very big power models, which kind of have to see the table at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Don't
then,
even think- like, would you play a Death Archon in those themes?
not in Trolls, I don't think, no. Unless it was friendly faction. I don't really see it.
No, that's
Um,
fair.
And kind of stepping on this same thing again, do you feel like Vengeance to Dunia existing has kind of shot the foot of Krill Company?
A fair bit, yeah. I do feel like the mark the target from Cruel Company and being able to take Dozer and Smig, because Dozer's really good. But like the casters that you're going to take Dozer with is probably Gunnies.
Yeah.
So, I do feel like Vengeance to Dunia did step on Cruel Company's toes quite a bit.
Yeah, when you've got the option of actually being able to take a frontline unit,
Yeah,
which most gun lines need.
yeah, you need like a tar pit, and Cruel Company just doesn't have it. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, Northern Raiders.
Yeah.
We all like.
You can kind of make up for the loss of mark target by taking lookouts if you absolutely wanted to.
Yeah, if you really
Yeah.
need to, you can get it
Not
anyway.
awful,
so it's-
was you know?
Yeah, and like I'll ask this question in regards to it. Would you rather hit things and potentially be able to out attrition people, or not lose in a scenario, but being able to contest things?
I like not losing. So
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah, it's like it's something
A
that
fair
just
point. A fair point.
kind of just has to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's just stood on it a little bit.
Yeah,
Any-
it's kind of shoehorned. It's not shoehorned. Sorry, it's stood on the toes of two themes in Trolls. Kind of sad times.
Yeah, like it's definitely made Storm better.
Yeah.
Like Bumbles is such a dynamic piece to be able to add.
So
Like-
good. It's maybe too good. But
yeah,
good.
I mean you can't take him as a wreck, which is at least something.
Yeah.
Like him with Hoof It on, it's pretty tasty. Just being able to yo-yo in and out. He takes buffs
Yeah.
really well, especially now that you've got stuff like Spicy Hands and Fire Hands in theme.
Yeah.
Any changes that you think are like middle tier, like nice changes but not really? Wouldn't write home about.
Thinking about it, I probably would put the Swamp Troll in there. Like, it's a nice change, but it's not hugely relevant.
Yeah,
And the Storm Troll. Like, both of those probably.
yeah. And then after playing it for a little while, do you think the CID has failed any particular models?
No, I think it did good stuff for everything. Like, it definitely shook the faction up quite a lot,
Yeah,
and in a good way.
yeah, it's playable now.
Yeah, well, it was playable before. It's just actually competitive-ish. Now. Like,
Yeah,
before I wouldn't have said it was. It wasn't as competitive. It's more competitive now. So I think, on the whole, I think the Troll CID was probably like one of the biggest successes.
I think since that CID they've started to do a lot better jobs. So the Legion one was a little bit iffy. Like I've got quite negative views on Beth's and the Archangel. Apart from that, I think they did a really good job on everything else.
Not like playing into Archangels, to be fair, right?
Archangels are, I still think, quite tilting, but that's only when they've got access to 2 damage buffs.
Yeah.
You've then got Troll CID, which I think was pretty successful.
Yeah.
Ret CID, I think, was pretty successful. Like, when you actually get past the things, they've got a decent caster out of it. I know people have got varying opinions on that, but I think if you play a conservative game, I think the caster is good. I would probably put it at a high B to low A tier, which isn't a bad thing to have.
No, it's a good idea.
And a lot of things got changed to make them viable. Like, all the jacks got changed.
Yeah, the Manticore is really good now.
Yeah, unfortunately he's not here, but Paul would be ranting and raving about the Manticore change.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge.
He's there in chat. I see.
You've got the
in
Executioners,
spirit.
which are pretty damn phenomenal as well. Like, played into them plenty of times.
Yeah, it just
Unfortunately,
feels like the Trotty Eddy was really nicely balanced.
Yeah.
Or
That's the thing. I think
yeah.
that a CID is successful when it makes the faction competitive, but not daunting to play against and not overpowered.
Yeah, so
It means it's on a level playing field with everyone else, which is much better than it being the hot meta. Everyone wants to play it because it's the best faction.
yeah, which is definitely what you want. Like, we're 2 weeks into CG now, and in the most part, I think there's some really positive changes there. I've got double audio from someone. Who'd that?
Wasn't me. But nor is it
I think
Jack.
it was Tom.
I think it's Tom.
It was me, but I have no idea why. Because it wasn't doing the whole.
Fair enough. Yeah, I
Mysterious.
think the CG stuff in the most part, they are kind of listening to the community. Like, we've got Combat Alchemists on there, and they're not good yet, but they're on there. That's the main thing. Like, they've given them a rule that's actually relevant now, and they've given them Swift Hunter, which is a rule which is, I wouldn't say that relevant, but yeah, it is what it is.
Some draw models have it.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Like, Lucas is better. Synergy had no need to be on that card at all.
Fair.
No need. Like,
I will reserve my thoughts.
what? Go on.
Do you not like it then, Jack?
I'll miss it. I'll miss the juicing mechanic as it is.
No,
before
not
the
juicing.
CID.
Synergy.
No, I know, but I'm.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the
I can
whole
see
of
what
it.
you mean. It was very dynamic. However, he was a bit explosive.
It was very aggressive, and I will admit that. But I think there was lighter touches you could have made and still made him very viable.
Yeah, hitting the middle ground. I can kind of see that, but the gaining
it's a
sync,
shame
like,
that it took TK to do it.
yeah,
Is my grievance.
yeah,
Is that we had the mechanics to make a really cool caster, and don't get me wrong, TK is a phenomenal spell, but it feels like a band-aid.
it is one that's going to shake up the faction completely. Like,
100%. You provide that to battle engines, and you've got
They've
Stugo and
become phenomenal
Boros.
pieces. Yeah, so like that's really big. Suppressor change is really okay.
good.
I
But
don't know how I feel about it. It feels like they just kind of slap shooting gallery on anything that has dual attack and sprays. To be honest, It's
It's
always my view on it.
Well, it will perform equally as well.
Yeah.
In terms of the adjustment in sort of depth in models that we've seen.
yeah, it was
Kinda
something
makes
that
up for the fact that Angels we've got more Angels with Blade Shield and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
it was-
keeping in
I
line
don't-
at least.
I don't hate it, but it's not something that I'm going to go home about. Vindicator maybe become viable soon. Like, it's got some nice changes. You've got powerful attack now on the gun. That's really nice.
There comes a point where you staple enough rules on something and people
It's-
will
it's
start
not
to
stick.
take it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think powerful attack and the power 15 gun makes it
100%, yeah.
the ability that you're gaining there is it's a jack that you never really need to allocate to in the early to mid game, and that's what some of the casters really want. Like, Baldwin can never afford to usually give out focus. Silvestro usually wants to use most of it himself, being a greedy bugger. I mean, I don't really see you playing it with Locke, so we'll just leave that one out of the question. Bennett, it's not bad when you give it flight and +2 movement as an option. Like, quite a lot of the casters in CG just really struggle to give out focus. So I think it's
Special
not.
mention on Bennett's suppressor as well, because it can trample over the larger bases
Yeah.
and not get. It doesn't have to make the attack.
Yeah. So
which is
I feel
valuable
like
then, right?
I feel like the Vindicator's potentially almost there. Almost there on the Vindicator. You've got, what else has been changed? Oh, Assault Troopers. They're good now. They're actually interesting as well. So what, they went up to power 14 week 1 from power 13.
Yeah.
And then week 2 they've gone down to power 12. Lost,
now?
yeah, they've gone down to power 12, lost Brutal Charge, but gained Weapon Master and Eruption of Ash, which is a really interesting rule to have on a unit like that. And the Weapon Master actually means they might do something when they get there. I think they're an interesting unit now.
Causes damage on creation, right?
Yeah, that causes fire damage, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're interesting now. Failed experiments, I think, are a bit of a miss at the moment. I think you need to give them maybe a rule. I feel like you probably cut Berserk for something a bit more interesting. Berserk just doesn't feel right on that card. Like, I can understand it,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's what that unit wants to do.
So what do you want instead of Berserk then, Ryan? What do you think would work better?
So the way that I see them at the moment is they're a cav unit. Like, when you've got a unit that can effectively get to speed 8, and then you've got TK and other stuff that you can speed them up with, but when you've got set that speed 8, they are effectively a cav unit, right? Cav either needs to hit really hard or disrupt. I feel like their POW isn't hitting hard enough to do enough damage as they currently stand, and I just don't feel like you'd be using Cav to clear infantry. So I feel like there needs to be something in the middle, just kind of balance it out. And I feel like if you used to do something with their weapons, then it gets a bit better, personally.
So that something is what though? More POW?
I'm not even necessarily sure it's more POW. Maybe like an effect on it.
What, like what? Like knockdown on hit or knockdown on crits?
Maybe.
Like, I just fucking idea.
Yeah.
What?
So I feel like they want to be more in like the disruption sort of range. So it's trying to find. No, I don't think it's the sort of model that would have it.
Feedback, maybe.
It's a bit of a dead rule, isn't it? It's just a bit.
Is it?
I feel like something that would perform some form of disruption would be kind of nice, and I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Maybe like Brain Dead. No, I'm not saying Brain Dead, but something like that. So you know how like Helga 2's baseball bat's got it. Like Helga 2's got it on a baseball bat.
You mean brain damage?
Brain damage, that's the one. Yeah.
I was like, do you mean brain damage?
Yeah. I think something like that could be really interesting. So just having an effect when they get in there could be kind of nice. Because at the moment they hit okay, but now Assault Troopers hit better. They're fast.
Could we go something in the line of maybe the Skinwalker's UA, Death Howls? Obviously not.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to remind all of us what that does, because no one knows what that does.
Yeah. Death Howls is... I have to pull it up because I have to check. I'm pretty sure it's any model in the unit.
Can't benefit from orders.
Can't benefit from orders. Can't issue orders. Can't cast spells.
Something like that. And
the
the Lamenter's got something like that. Can't give or receive orders.
The rule Discord would cover you the spell.
They have. You're thinking of the Shrieker. The Shrieker is Wailing.
Wailing, yeah. Something that to perform some form of disruption because they're so. Just because, I just don't know. I just don't feel like they show mutations enough, as they currently stand. Like they become quick.
If they were a Mark II unit, they would have terror.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are just missing something on that card, which is a bit upsetting, I think.
To be fair, that would be really problematic with the new Retcaster with her whole command 5.
She's running away a lot, mate.
How about
this is really when you miss rules like terror, and you're like, oh yeah.
I'm so glad I missed rules like terror.
I never had the problem, honestly. Playing nothing but exemplars in Mark II, everything was just immune to it. It was a great time. Never had the problem. But I think they are missing something.
Go on, Tom.
Okay, I'll go. It's when we play these random spell drafts, which, if you are playing this weekend, and we get that random card that says you get fearless.
I
and it's
have
like,
removed that.
I remember this rule.
That Tom was the old Battle Lust. Used to give you the additional dice and damage, and fearless for some unknown reason. It was a good time. I'm just going to refresh myself
I
to
miss
what's.
command being a stat, so I won't lie.
What if, and I'm partially kidding here, we gave oh no, I've lost my train of thought.
Fantastic.
Nope, we're moving on.
Really quickly,
Minus a negative to command whilst within a range.
that does nothing, so that's fine.
Jack, what is that going to
No,
honestly
but
do?
It does to units. What
What is that going to do?
you catch a unit leader in it and go, okay, your command range is like 2 inches smaller.
This is a terrible idea. So, Jack, what we're going to do
Now
is,
when you roll the
along
now
with
when
this,
you roll the check at the end of the turn for the number of wait.
so along with the idea, Jack,
We're playing 40k now.
we're going to put that and the Rocket Man Stinger in the bin straight away. 'Cause that model's just bad. Like,
The Stinger's good now, right? You got Shadow Bond.
yeah, but why would you ever take it?
Battle
The Shadow Fine.
apply it on a battle engine, yeah.
I find it a good roll, apart from you can.
I'm gonna
Bond's a good roll.
I'm going to pay for a model that does basically no damage. That seems good.
You pay for a model that does a Gerhardt shot every turn. If it doesn't die, that is.
Or you could just
Control
take
is
Gearhart.
as good as damage run. Like
That's debatable nowadays. That's
might
I'd
be
say it's
right.
heavily debatable nowadays. Like, I think there's enough meat nowadays that control can only do so much.
fair.
When you got some meat on mass,
So, hear me out. Here's the scenario. You're playing CG into Zol 2. You have got your Stinger in front of the Supreme Guardian. You go to charge it. They defensive strike. They roll 666. They drop the 6. It's dead anyway. Never mind.
bad model, clearly.
so I'm gonna
Bad model.
carry on with this for you, Jack. You've not got there because all the immortals have killed your entire army because you're still really squishy to melee, right? Containment ops, I don't think I care for. Like, they've got some good rules on them. I just don't think I care at all.
You take one unit if you're running a Jack Brick. Maybe. Two.
Maybe. I just don't really care. Like, I don't think they're a bad unit. I would only ever see them in a Jack heavy list.
Well, yeah.
Like,
If they keep the line of sight reduction to 5, right?
that's interesting, but it's not something it's not something you build around. And what you've got to realise
I could
is
see you taking that with Gerhardt.
what you've got to realise is we're in a world of shield guards, so nothing that you're actually going to shoot is going to hit most of the time.
No, it's going to hit. It's
There
not
are
going to hit the model.
3 of them.
Okay.
That is a point to make. There are 3.
There
of
are
them.
3 of
Not
them.
a lot of lists will have 3 shield guards around the same target. Not all.
Depending
can't
on
think
the
of any
target.
units where you
Not
can,
everyone
like-
plays men off, Ryan.
No, depending on the target. If you've got a
minion.
higher value target, you protect
And
that model.
Sorry, flames.
It's just the one flame actually.
Such a bad joke.
I knew you'd say that.
I missed an opportunity to say it earlier. I wasn't missing the second one.
Yeah, I just... If it's a high-value model like an Archon, which 9 times out of 10 is where your damage is coming from, you protect that model. If you know something like that's happening, or Gatsby, because they are just anti-Gatsby, right? So if you've got something that is that problematic, you protect it. Which is why I don't think it will stick.
Sure, but their existence forces protection, which in itself forces your opponent position, which in itself is valuable because your opponent has to take into consideration.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is,
Might not
because
be able to put
most
that
of your stuff in
because anywhere
CG...
else. You're also
Most of your stuff in CG is sprays.
okay.
So the
Oh,
shield guards aren't
Zelda's
horrendously
Vulcan in a lot of
relevant.
lists.
Yeah, it's
You
only
still
two.
have
That's only
the
two
Vulcan,
guns.
Like a Vulcan on all of
It's
this.
2 guns. It's fine. It's 2 guns. Won't do anything. It's fine. But no, I don't see it. I don't see it being.
Only 2 guns.
I don't see it being relevant.
I like
It's a
the
bold
concept,
claim.
Ryan, I like the concept.
I don't think it'll be relevant. Look, I'm a man of bold claims here. I don't think it's be worth it.
That is a hot take that we will.
Then what,
shall
8 points?
See how it grows.
The 8 points.
What the containment of?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 points.
I don't think it's worth 8
They're also,
points.
like, I think they're worth 8 points.
I think unless you're going for a heavy Jack list, there is no point taking them. I think
Yeah,
very
true
little
that.
things want them.
It will take. a heavy jack. I suspect you'll be taking at least one heavy jack list in your pairing,
Maybe.
especially with cutting edge being what it is.
Maybe. I see cutting edge in a different view. Like I'll finish off with the mentalist quick. Like that model's just good. They are toning it down in decent ways, which I like.
They're being careful, yeah.
They're being careful
And
with it, which is
Force Aura
good.
just good.
Force Aura is huge for the faction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't hate it at all. They're toning it down, which is nice. As long as it keeps Force Aura, which by the looks of things it will, all good. The theme, I still surprised we've not lost the theme benefit yet, because there is 3 theme benefits.
It does seem very good.
Like, they can just cut the double shield guard at this point, and it would be fine. So the cutting edge rule is really weird. The way that I look at it is, my Tom's computer just get booted. The way that I see it, you've got double audio now, Tom. Good job. So the way that I'm seeing it is, so on that, things like, because it affects your journeymans, you can now have a Vulcan allocate to it through Prospero and Guided Fire in a turn. So you can fully allocate to that Vulcan. That in itself is huge, because it means you can boost as much as you can, right? So you can boost 2 damage rolls.
Now we just
boosting
need to wait. Wait, does instability equation gain allocate or give?
Allocate, but it removes the disruption, if that's what you're asking for. It's relevant. It doesn't achieve anything.
Allocates. Obviously, it doesn't achieve anything. The joke I was going to make is now we just need to wait for a warjack that can take 6 focus.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, and like the cutting edge thing, the only thing that I look at is, as we've previously mentioned, all of these casters are so strapped on focus, right? It just means that you are not having to allocate as heavy, and your caster can still do a lot, because all of the Crucible Guard casters are very active in themselves. So the cutting edge really helps with that, is the way that I look at it. Because there are many times where you're going to need a jack to be at 3 focus going into melee, and you would struggle to do stuff with a caster because you're doing that, whereas that now helps. Healing bit,
The
it just
heal
feels
is
weird.
huge.
It's really huge, but it just feels weird. I don't know why it's there.
Yeah.
That's my...
I think it applying to battle engines as well is a bit odd. Like,
Yeah.
I could see Warjack because it brings it back to mind. That's very good. Battle engines, it's still good, but it just feels like, why is it applying to everything?
Especially when half of it applies to allocating of jacks. It feels like it should just be something that's aimed at jacks. It's all weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it, because it's just construct as well, so it affects Prospero, right? I think it's just construct based. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can go check.
You're right, yeah.
You can go check the document.
I am going to go check this because I need to...
Best journeyman in the game. Yeah. Put transportation on him and go ham, as I believe somebody said it in the Legion CID. Better than the Blight Archon. Yeah, that is my rambling of Crucible Guard done. Anyone want to add anything?
No.
No? Right, we've got the...
There's one Barry on
It
Cam, by the
specifically
way.
calls Warjacks and battle engines.
Bastards.
Oh.
Bastards. Alright, we've got the...
Sparrow is so awful now.
Such a bad model. Right, we've got some podcast questions as well
West Junior in the game.
to wrap it up with. Some of them are quirky, some of them are not. So,
We always get the quirky question, Ryan, that's not
yeah,
right.
we're going to start off with the quirky one from Mr. Yarn. So, if you could have a BFF with any of the Warclusters / Warlocks, who would it be and why? We'll start off with Jack, because he's the one that looks like he's looking at confused the most. Jack, who'd your best friend forever be in War Machine as a caster?
I think I'd pick Kaya.
What one?
I'd ride Laris.
Oh. And we're censored.
I too want to learn what it's like to run as fast as a wolf that I ride.
Oh. Okay.
That is-
Yeah, that feels like your reason for it as well. Fine. Tom?
Mate, can I pick Iron Mother? Because then I can have as many mummy issues as Aurora 2 does.
Oh, I think Barry's slowly coming back.
I'm still here, it's just the camera's not there.
Yeah, okay. Who'd your best friend forever be, Barry?
It would 100% be Nemo, because he'd just be coming up with wacky like inventions and stuff as you As you were going.
Just your
Do
mad
you have
dad.
daddy issues like Aurora?
No, because
We've got to get matching.
Aurora.
I just feel like you introduce him to things like an Arduino, he's gonna like, and then he's just gonna go ham like making stuff.
Oh,
And who would yours be?
I don't know. Not really thought about this. I reckon it'd have to be quite a passive aggressive person. Maybe something like a Resnick. I feel like he'd be the type of person that would just log on to like something like Facebook every morning, see an absolutely ridiculous comment, and just beat them to the ground for it. And I just like watching Facebook arguments. I'm not gonna lie, and I feel like he'd be great at that in this day and age. So yeah, that's my reason.
You're the ultimate keyboard warrior.
He would. He'd be doing us all proud. Right. We've got kind of a serious one next. Oh, we've lost another person
Oh no, sorry, that was Barrybot.
again. Right, next one is.
We're going for why don't undead models bring Ryan because
Yep,
doesn't
sure.
get affected by.
Sure, we'll go for that one. Tom, you can answer that one quick.
I'm not answering that one, Ryan, because it's a Grimkin related question. Grimkin. Barry, go.
What? What was the question?
Why don't undead models dream?
Oh, because they don't have souls.
I mean, I
Do
feel
they
like
have souls?
I've now
They have
bamboozled
souls.
myself,
They
and I'm
just
not
don't.
sure
They
anymore.
just
No, they don't
don't
have
generate
souls.
them.
They don't have souls. They have corpses, Jack.
No. They specifically have souls. They just don't generate them like because only living models generate souls upon death.
Well, then that's why they don't dream.
And this is one
No,
of
the
kind of
answer
nice
is they don't
things.
have souls, which makes it really confusing for Ghastly Ford because how the fuck did he go in a soul canister when he doesn't have a soul? But hey ho.
Here's this phylactery which contains a soul.
Right, next question we've got is.
Okay.
So I don't think very many people argue with the fact that the power creep has always been in the game, but do you think or do you believe that since that it's ranked up a bit since Oblivion has happened? And do you think that is a good or a bad thing for the health of the game? Unfortunately, power creep has definitely gone up since Oblivion. Models are getting more rules. I think they're trying to kind of do their best to keep it all on par, but the line is now not here anymore. Everything has to be here, which then just creates problems the more and more releases you go. And I think that's what we've kind of seen nowadays with some of these newer stuff.
Very much. I'm not a fan of power creep. I realise that you do need to try and make sure that things are balanced, but the problem is that initially I think we had a cycle of making powerful models, and now we've got everything else is catching up, which is then causing power creep, which my personal opinion is not good for the game. Like, it'd be nice if defense was stats again.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get to a stage where it will be power creep won't be a thing anymore because we will probably have like effectively Mark 4 or something like that. But
Yeah, it's
I'm definitely positive to what's happening with the game, but there's negatives to power creep.
So I guess my question is. Oh, go on, Barry.
Oh, I have reservations about power creep. I see the problem is you need to make models that you want to sell good enough to sell. I get that whole aspect of it kind of drives power creep in itself, not deliberately, but as an offshoot of selling models. And you can see that like games have gotten so much more dynamic since they released some of the more powerful models because they've got a lot more abilities to interact with each other or abilities you can interact with. But the problem is it leaves everything else massively far behind. Like the go-to example is the Femblade Kithkar, which does next to nothing, and is so like it's comparatively very boring as a model. Like it doesn't do anything exciting. It doesn't give hoof it out, charge something else, hit it twice, knock it down, and consequently, like a lot of the aspects are like there are segments of the game that just get left behind.
Far too
you can
behind.
name one for pretty much every faction where it's just been like, oh, yeah, those are models that you've got.
Yeah.
Like, And the problem is, the more you push it, the more you either have to bring, like, basically you end up leapfrogging models over, where you're like, oh, the terrible model, now the best model,
Yeah.
but now these are the terrible models, so they got to be the best model, and you either end up leapfrogging that, or you get newer and newer models, and PP really don't feel like they can afford to put more and more models out. They've already got a bootload full of, like, what do they call them, SKUs, and I don't feel like they can afford to keep putting more out, but then we're just going to see this leapfrogging of units going round and round in...
Yeah.
I think though that, as much as it might seem like an awful thing to say, I think that the power creep, I prefer the power creep over what we had at the end of Mark II, which was model spam. Like, no offense to the game, but no one enjoyed World Watcher spam, and no one enjoyed playing into Griffin spam, because I'm sorry, that was toxic. Like, it's better than that is, because no one wanted to go
It is.
and kill
So
11 Griffins.
the only issue they've got now is whenever PP decide to release a model, it has to be ever so slightly better than the last good model. So every single release, the caliber of what the next one has to be gets increased, which is why everything's just slowly getting more and more over the top and pushing the boundaries. They are helping as many factions as they can along the line. Unfortunately, they are quite small. They can't do it to all of them. But I feel like they just need to get the mindset of, to release a new model, it just has to have A, a nice sculpt, B, be good. Doesn't have to be overpowered, doesn't have to be better than the last good thing, just needs to be comparable. So you have a line of balance opposed to a constant changing. Yeah.
So the word you're looking for, Ryan, is it needs to be a viable option.
Yeah, exactly
And
that.
that's the problem, is that there's too many models which are not a viable option, they are compulsory options.
Yeah, you've got
And
that,
then
and
there
you've
are
got
lots of
ones
models that are not
just bad. Yeah.
options. As a convergence player, I would definitely say that Ghastly 4 is a requirement, not a viable option.
He's a must-have, yeah.
It's a bit sad, but I feel like they're really
My
trying at the
question-
moment. Go on, Jack.
I think my question is the power creep that we're seeing now worse than the creep that we saw in Mark II?
Yes.
Or towards the end of Mark II?
No, it's definitely worse, because, and I
Yes.
don't mean this in a bad way, but the reason it's worse is because back in Mark II you had anthology books, which meant that every faction got a little bit of a power creep, whereas now it's
Faction
one
by faction.
gets a CID and gets a power creep, but because it gets its power creep separate, it just slightly is above the curve, which means the next CID that happens tends to, as a result, be slightly above the curve of that one. Now,
Some factions definitely won out in their anthologies compared to others.
and that's the thing, when you have something that is, for like, again, an anthology book, and everyone is being looked at and getting a small amount of models, it's easier to balance that because, for lack of better words, because everyone's not being looked at as a whole.
I also
Everyone is being looked at as a whole, so you're not getting a massive injection of models and rules.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You're releasing effectively less models less frequently. So where we've got, I wouldn't necessarily say that it is as bad. Sorry, that it was not that bad in Mark II, but where the release rate was slower, because you would have a dump every 6 months, effectively, right? You'd have a dump for War Machine and a dump for Hordes. At that point,
So we're seeing the same pattern, it's just accelerating.
it's just because the CIDs happen so much more frequently and by individual factions, you're just noticing that effect even quicker. And because of that, it's happening
Are
quicker.
we also not partially to blame for that? Because
Well, yes, because it's a
Where-
CID now. So we have to be to
Yeah,
blame
the fact
partially.
Exactly.
the fact of the matter is, Jack, is that people want to win their games.
people deal in the feedback deals in extremes. It feels like Falkir feels like one of those examples in that people were either extremely happy with her or extremely displeased with her original form, and then the inverse happened in that again people were still extremely happy. It was just the
I
other groups.
think that's a very hard caster to even think about putting into CID. Anything that has an effect. So anybody playing something that has an effect on my models with no interaction, is always going to have a lot of talk, a lot of debates going in regards to it, because typically you expect dice rolls to happen, you expect things to have to trigger for that sort of thing to happen, but when it just passively happens, people have very strong opinions about that. People don't like not being able to use their own toys, and that creates an issue, and that's what Falcia has. That's what Falcia can do, and I think that's why she was so debated in regards to it. But I think she's perfectly viable. Like, I think they did an alright job of it. But yeah, I think
Yeah, I feel like the
it could have been a lot more. From the opposing player, she could have been, for lack of a better word, a lot more toxic. And I don't think they've done a bad job at making it toxic. I think that there's going to be a bit of micromanagement in there, but it could have been a lot worse for the opposing player.
definitely, yeah.
I think the problem with anything like D&D is you'll get the extremes. It's like when you go and review a restaurant or something, you never go, this was average, 3 stars.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely
You go
does
top or
that
bottom,
happen.
right?
You either go 1 star, this was awful, 5 stars, this was incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't seem to play broken does.
I feel like this is a topic we can waffle on for quite a long time in regards to.
Yep.
So we'll just briefly go around the room and just say, do you think it's bad? Do you think... So, do you think it's good or bad for the game? So, Jack, good or bad for the game?
Then
The
Power
power,
creep.
so power creep, good or bad for the game?
power creep. I'm gonna say bad for the game.
Tom?
I would say bad for the game, but good for the player that is benefiting from it. But I don't think that's a good thing at the end of the day.
Barry?
I can't. I'm gonna say bad for the game, but with the caveat that I mean, like, it's a necessary evil in order for PP to sell things and make money. So it's like, I don't think you can avoid it. It's always going to happen.
It's the extent of how frequent it happens.
It's the frequency and the amount it ramps.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I would say it's a problem, but I think if they was to look at it somewhat soon, they could resolve it. I don't think it's too far gone.
I think the fair thing to say from all of this is that it's the volume of power creep, and not that if power creep was minimised, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Right, so next question I've got here is if you can remember it, first game of War Machine, what was you playing in regards to it? Jack?
It would have been it was a Kador match. It was me versus Rob. I was Sorcerer 1, he was Vlad 1. Just the basic battle box, Juggernaut and something else. It doesn't come to mind. And I ended up getting the Windrush assassination on Vlad under Blood of Kings. It was close, but I fucking it was a feat.
Barry, do you remember your first game of War Machine?
I think it was my first game of War Machine. Was against Dan Price. Striker 1, because I started in like very end of Mark 2.
Yeah.
Striker 1 battle box against the Legion battle box. On it was on those school table. It was on that with a piece of felt rolled over it. That was the extent of it.
Yeah.
And I remember losing. But yeah, that was right towards the end of Mark 2 because I played about 5 games Mark 2 and then started Mark 3.
That's fair. I think my first game was playing Legion back then. I think playing Val 1 with Legion with the good old din ladies and stuff back then. For some reason I didn't start off with Battle Box game. I think I just got some second hand stuff into it. And I was playing with one of my locals in the area called Josh, and I think we was playing at the time. Wayland had a South End store, so I think it was going between there and the Hockley one.
I did.
Yeah, so that's when I first started. Can't remember how the game went, but he was playing Circle at the time. Tom?
I can't remember what my first game was, but I started playing early Mark 2 to be fair. I can tell you definitely what I was playing, which would have been Boulder 1, Wild Spam, because what brought me into the game was the constructs of Circle. So it's probably against Dean because I think Dean bought into the game before I did. Probably lost because Legion, and I'm tilted against Legion. 13 years later? But yeah, it was definitely World Spam. Probably nothing apart from my castle was deployed at the beginning of my thing, because back then it was
All AD.
you go theme. Everything has AD, and if it doesn't have AD, it has advanced move.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, all right, we've got another one, but I've split it into 2 questions.
While Ryan reads, I also remember my second and third games of War Machine were against Rob and Jack. Jack was playing the Kyle. It's Kyle 1, wasn't it? The old Mark II battle box.
It's Kyle 1, yeah.
Wolf that keeps Spirit Door. Oh, I was so demoralised after that game. So I was like, what do I do? And then the other game was against Rob playing Social 1, which was Kado battle box, and just getting crippling past one bomb pretty much every 5 minutes, going, okay, we'll try again, and I'll see if I can avoid it this time. I got their revenge.
Yeah, this one fits.
Having a negative speed was denied charges. Spirit Fang was top notch.
Yeah, so this one goes a bit into 2. So first bit is, so what do you think people enjoy playing some of the more jankier sort of stuff in War Machine? And how do you account for different types of play styles in a community? So obviously you've got certain people which are hyper competitive, and you've got some people that just like to play the fun things. How do you get a middle ground in that sort of thing?
Who's asking first, Brian? Who's this aimed at?
We'll go with Barry first. Barry used to do a lot more events or things and things like that. So we'll start there.
Yeah. Starting with part 1, jank. Why do people jank? Like, it is fun to be either the first person or like the first person, like even locally, to work out some really weird stuff that just fits together and works really well. And then people don't expect it. So you get like, in addition to making a list that works really well together and winning games, you get the dark horse factor where you can win games because your opponent's like, what is this list?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, these things work together. And then I think that's why a lot of people play Jank. Certainly why I play Jank. Like, there is an aspect of like, you can certainly live, you can express like being your individuality more. It's a little bit, not trite, but perhaps flowery language. But like, you can just sort of express you more like, hey, I'm not just playing every other list that everyone plays. Like, I'm playing my own streak of Signar that I like, and it works.
Yeah.
And then for the other question, in terms of how you bring in, like, how you balance everything so you can, like, introduce new people or even appease, like, people who've been playing for a long time but aren't improving, or the people who are, like, diehard must be competitive every time. Certainly, I've found it's much better to go into a game and ask what your opponent wants from the game, rather than just jumping in blindly to like, hey, let's play a game of War Machine, and you turn up with Sturgis 1, your opponent turns up with Butcher 3, and you're like, this isn't going to be fun for me.
Dead on arrival.
So bad. I think it's very hard to get unless you ask, you're not going to know, right? If you turn up to a new player and you play what you know is a really bad list, your opponent might know that, right? And they might come across to them, not that you're trying to be nice and help them with the game, but kind of more insulting them with it. So I feel like you are just better asking what they want from it, what they're looking to, even go into little details if you want. What are you trying to test out in this game, sort of thing. Like if the player is kind of newish or coming back to the game, or maybe just, I don't know how to word this.
Like, do you want me to ease you in at the shallow end, or do you want to jump right in at the deep end?
So I don't really want to say not as good as you, because that's your own opinion, but like in terms of
less experienced.
Less experienced with just playing the game time sort of thing. Like, it's always better to ask, because if somebody is trying to learn things, you can just play random fun stuff and you can do okay with it, and you get to experience some of the models that you don't usually get to put on the table, which is always quite fun.
I think there is a big thing as well, though, is that, for lack of better words, if you are the PG, for lack of a better word, of your area, knowing what your players like to play and what their personalities goes a long way. If you know you've got a particular player that is very much a competitive player, you probably make sure to avoid pairing them with a new player or a player that particularly enjoys the steamroller but is not a competitive player.
So here's the thing there. I can't think of, I don't know what it's like in other countries and areas, I can't think of a single top tier player in the UK that I would not want to put against a new player, because 9 times out of 10 that new player is going to have a fantastic game and he's going to learn a lot doing it. Like, all of them are so forgiving. They'll explain all the little details as well. Like, I just feel like they do such a good job at it, and I feel like it's, unfortunately, it comes down to, you see the issues more in the mid to slightly higher tiers where you start to have that problem. But I feel like if you're a person kind of not in charge of your area, but you kind of almost try to push people a lot more, you'll learn what people are like very quickly. And
I think that the thing is that people who are very much a high tier part of the game, like people who are playing in WTC, for example, I think that they very much, they want to bring people into the games.
Yeah.
They are well aware of their ability, but also, therefore, if they're playing a new player, they want to make them have an enjoyable game. They're not worried about winning.
yes,
It's you know, for lack of a word, in your community, you know the players that
now
are there to win the game, not to enjoy the game.
Now,
and you just make sure that they can have their enjoyable game, because they do enjoy a game that they might lose when they look like they're going to win. But your new players won't enjoy that experience. So you just put them against people that are there to help other players enjoy their games as well.
you do have to be careful, because I think if that top person continuously gets put with a newer person, like, it comes to a point where you do want to play serious games every now and then, and if you're constantly helping that person, what you're able to give as that better player is going to start to go down, because you're going to get less motivated. So just keeping an eye on those things and just rotating between the people that you are happy with and you know are going to do a good job there. Just rotate with them so that everyone stays fresh on it and gives the best that they can. Really.
Everyone has to get what they want from the game, otherwise people are going to leave it.
Exactly.
That's the thing you've got to balance.
Yeah. And then
I think Barry makes a good point there, actually, about that people are going to leave it. Is that I think that's, at least I would say several years ago, was a problem that, at least locally for me and Ryan, we struggled with, was that we were losing players. We've got more players again now.
Mark 2 to Mark 3 was really bad for us in terms of how it all happened. And it's a really bad thing to happen, but if a player makes another player leave the game, that can make you feel really bad. Like, I've unfortunately done that once. Not, I wouldn't say just me, but like, I've been part of the problem once, and it felt terrible for that to happen. Like, I remember I was in quite a friendly sort of event, something new just dropped, and the person had just played into it. Unfortunately, it was quite a bit power creepy. I was running the same thing as well. Bear in mind, this is just after it happened, so there wasn't a huge amount of discussion in terms of things. We just both came up with the same sort of idea, and then he was just like, I'm not playing that, I'm going. And I was just like, I was just sitting there for 2 hours, just watching other games, because I feel pretty bad now. And the guy's never come back to the game since. I was like, okay. Like, it's terrible to think if it happens, so you've got to be careful with these sort of things, but I think the best thing you can do with new people is get them with the really experienced people. And you will know what type of person is willing to help give back to the community.
Yeah,
you will know that by playing like one game.
Hold of people's personalities.
Yeah.
Locally, and you knew who would be good for new players and who wouldn't be good for new players, and you could sort of balance it as being like, oh, X can play Y this week, Z can play A. Like,
rotation is huge. We are basically touching on the second point as well, to be honest, which is the mix of the two types of players. I think you've just got to keep it rotated and things. Like, if you've got a person that likes to just play nothing but jank, they'll get to a point where they're actually going to become good with that jank as well. So they are going to be able to at least compete with those better players.
Yep. We 100% that. We had a guy locally who played Darius for a long time.
Was
like
it you, Barry?
Years. and it was not me actually. It was someone else. But he played Darius for a long time, and eventually he got to the point where he was actually like giving some of the better players a run for their money with Darius because he like experience trumps raw power in War Machine every time.
100%.
And yeah, he just got the experience and the reps with the list to the point where he was like, oh, like I can go toe to toe with like. I always use Butcher 3 as an example because I had such a difficult time dealing with Butcher 3 for forever until I got until it clicked for me. But like, yeah, you'd be like, oh, I can go toe to toe with Butcher 3 with Darius, and you're like, that is weird, but it's cool because it shows you that the experience that you've generated is like worthwhile, and that jank is not just bad.
No, there is different calibers of jank. I'm putting models on the table that I know are bad and they've got no, and I don't expect anything to come from it. And there is just the
Palandra Double Highwayman, man, was top tier. Why have you got to do me like that every time?
the fun that you can have with just thinking of different interactions, thinking of different, not really overly thought about interactions, and then just start rolling with it. That's where the janky stuff can start to get fun, I find.
Haley 3 Double Sword Knights, there's one for you at home.
Defenses and stuff.
Morrow and Archons, now you're thinking that's +4 def. Defensive line, that's +6 def.
Not good enough.
Battle Priests, you've got shield guards.
Yeah, that is all of our questions. Anybody got any questions they want to chuck into the mixer? Nada? Very tinking.
Did you enjoy your first game of War Machine?
Yes. So me and this other person actually started playing the game at the same time. So we were both 40k players, and we played quite a lot of stuff together. So actually learning it with someone else that I knew and was quite good friends with was actually quite nice. Unfortunately, I then had to meet Dean and Tom at Wayland. That eventually had to happen. No, I have met very little people that I have not liked in War Machine, which is good. But yeah, I enjoyed my first games of War Machine. I faction hopped a lot at the beginning to find something that I enjoyed. But then once I got there, I was pretty happy with it.
Brian, you know what? It's appalling that you started off with Horde and yet you still don't know the rules for Hordes.
Yeah. Such a long time ago. Because I think I literally played Legion for about, I want to say about 5 months, but that was probably averaging. No, it was probably averaging one game every 1 to 2 weeks. So it wasn't a lot of games.
You probably started the game 5 years after maybe 4 years, 5 years after I did, and definitely played probably triple the amount of factions I owned.
Yeah, I played not a lot of trolls either. To be fair, I got them ridiculously cheap and then kind of sold them on pretty cheap, and then I just got on with Meloth, I think, really well.
Fine.
And then just stuck with them for the most time. Honestly, anything that looks like a knight, really cool.
Did you enjoy your first game of War Machine?
That
Aimed at
Jack.
Oh, I didn't hear the name. Yes, I did. Although it was mainly Rob helping me win. I think he was trying to get me hooked onto that sense of victory.
It's important.
That's yeah.
It is important.
That's fair. Tom?
I can't remember my first game, Barry. That's the problem. Like it was probably, I said, early Mark II. I reckon
I really hope.
The year of Mark II being released,
I really hope this game was with Dean, and you can't remember it, and Dean just remembers it so well. I can't wait for this to happen. This your first game was with Dean.
I remember Dean's first game of War Machine. I don't remember mine.
So
because
bad.
Dean's first game of War Machine was at a Tempest Fugitives event, and he found Legion then, and that was Mark 1. So
kept with the faction since.
he literally he stayed with Legion the entire way through. So I remember watching Dean play his first game of War Machine, or Hordes, I suppose. But you know, I don't remember what mine was. I remember buying the models, but I don't remember actually playing the game.
That's fair.
I remember buying my battle box. It was Johnny at work got me into it because we were chatting and I was like, oh, I paint like scale model tanks and stuff, and he was like, that's cool, but you could paint miniatures and then push them across the table and fight each other. And I was like, okay, I'm interested.
You're
I'm all
onto
in.
something.
I'm all in.
And then, yeah, and then painted my battle box, and then I got a mispack. My very first War Machine purchase was a mispack,
Ugh.
where I got 2 chargers instead of a charger and a lancer. So I had to borrow Johnny's. Oh no! I got two heavy kits. It was way better than that. I got 2 heavy kits and a lancer, and I had to borrow Johnny's Firefly until my missing parts one turned up. But like, I basically got a jump stock, so it's like an extra 10 quid, 15 quid
Yeah,
at the time. I was just like, value.
that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Right, if everyone's happy, I will probably end it there.
Oh, I have one more question.
I'll go from.
Did you paint your first models?
I've painted all of my models.
Barry,
No, I
I'll
mean the
tell
very
you
first
what,
models you bought. Did you paint them, or
What are we talking in terms of just War Machine or?
yeah, just like you
Probably-
can say no. I won't be upset.
Probably not till Men Off. When I bought Men Off, I was proper painting them. I can't remember Legion and Troll stuff. Although I probably
my
did.
battle box, Barry, which would have been back then, would have been Boulder 1, a Wold Warden, and a Wold Watcher. My Wold Watcher is painted. That's
Excellent.
Of my
Excellent.
Kaya 1, Feral Warpwolf, and Wild and the 2 Argyle, all of them are painted.
Excellent. Proud of you, Jack.
We did it.
it.
I didn't
Fair,
say
Barry,
well
I own 2
painted,
Boulder 1.
and it's not even
It-
top coated.
It
but
doesn't
it's
matter.
Painted.
If there's paint on them, it's good.
Been way too long on though.
But yeah, right. Well, I think we shall end it there then. Thank you everyone for watching. This will be going up as an actual podcast as well. I'll just have to somehow figure out the. Well, we have to
You'll
edit it and
manage
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
I
Bother
don't
me
have to
about
edit
it
it this
until we
time. It's
manage
going to
it.
be glorious. I don't have to spend
Yeah.
2.5 hours.
I mean, I'm not actually going to edit it.
editing
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to chuck the
Right.
intro bit at the beginning, the outro bit at the end, and then it's just going to come out unedited because it's going to be too much effort for this. I think
It's going to be
Fair.
trash.
literal trash, just like Barry's favourite list.
That list
Also, before we go, all the events are currently up for the next lot of Steamroller stuff. They are in the Events Link channel. Trying to remember the name of it. But I've done. Yeah, Events Link channel. So there's some Steamroller pods and there's some couple of Who's the Boss pods as well. Let me just find the actual date for when they are starting. They are starting on the 5th of March. So if you haven't already, get signed up to them. We're sorting out list submission bits after Fishcon and stuff. But yeah, thank you all for watching and see you later. Bye.
Bye.